In the early hours of 2nd of September 1666, a spark ignited in Thomas Farriner's bakery on Pudding Lane. What began as a small kitchen fire soon erupted into uncontrollable chaos. The flames, fueled by strong winds and densely packed timber buildings, spread rapidly from street to street. Within hours, the heart of London was ablaze, swallowing homes, shops, and warehouses. The city, already weakened by the Great Plague just a year before, faced a new terror. Not disease, but fire. A relentless force that showed no mercy to man or monument. For 4 terrifying days, the fire consumed London. Narrow lanes filled with thatch-roofed houses became tunnels of flame, trapping residents as the inferno raced through the city's fragile timbered core. With no organised fire brigades, desperate citizens formed chains, passing leather buckets of water and tearing down buildings with hooks. But the wind's fury defeated their courage and extinguished their hope. Families fled in chaos, by cart, by river, or on foot. Taking what little they could carry, church bells tolled warnings as red smoke clouded the sky, painting an apocalyptic scene. Eyewitnesses spoke of unimaginable terror. Mothers clutched their children, the elderly were carried on shoulders, and frightened animals were driven into the Thames to escape the scorching flames. Samuel Pepys famously buried his prized possessions, wine, money, even his Parmesan cheese, before fleeing by carriage with his wife, as the fire devoured entire neighbourhoods in its path. The skyline of London turned crimson, towers of flame visible from miles away. The city's roar echoed like thunder, a chorus of destruction as powerful as the plague that preceded it. When the flames finally subsided on the 6th of September, London lay in ruins. More than 13,000 homes were gone, along with 87 parish churches, the Royal Exchange, and the majestic St. Paul's Cathedral. The devastation seemed absolute, yet the recorded death toll was surprisingly low. It was as if the fire had destroyed the city but spared many lives, leaving ghosts where people once stood. In the aftermath, London's heart was rebuilt with wider streets, stronger stone buildings, and new fire regulations. Out of the ashes rose a safer city, shaped by destruction and rebirth alike. To many, the fire felt like divine intervention. The plague had killed thousands in 1665, and now fire in 1666 seemed to purge what disease had left behind. Rats, fleas, and vermin nests were destroyed, and with them the unseen carriers of pestilence. The fire's cleansing power gave Londoners both terror and relief, a fearful kind of salvation. Church sermons declared the fire a message from God, punishment and mercy combined. The flames, they said, were not mere disaster, but divine purification, London's rebirth through suffering and flame. Yet where faith gave comfort, fear soon sowed suspicion. Pamphlets and rumours spread accusing foreigners, particularly the French and Dutch, of deliberately setting the city ablaze. Others whispered of papist conspiracies and dark omens seen in the night sky. Some claimed strange lights flickered above London, or that shadowy figures were seen walking unharmed through the flames. In hysteria, innocent people were beaten and lynched. Fear of the unknown, of the supernatural, turned tragedy into paranoia. As ever, catastrophe invited not only ghosts, but scapegoats. Among the city's many losses was St. Paul's Cathedral, a sacred symbol of London's faith. The ancient Gothic structure stood no chance against the inferno's fury. As its roof collapsed, witnesses heard a roar so loud it shook the city. Some claimed to hear chanting amid the smoke, ghostly voices of long-dead monks mourning their fallen church. The air filled with embers and ash as the cathedral's stones cracked and fell. To those watching, it felt as if heaven itself was crying out in grief and flame. Long after the fire, the ruins of St. Paul's became a place of uneasy silence. Locals whispered of strange happenings amongst the charred stone and broken arches. Travellers at night claimed to see phantom flames flickering where the cathedral once stood, or to hear bells tolling faintly from beneath the rubble, though no bells remained. Many believed these were the restless spirits of plague victims buried in the crypts below, forever bound to a place where prayer, fire and death had so tragically met. The monument to the Great Fire, built near Pudding Lane in the 1670s, stands as both memorial and mystery. Even today, it carries an unsettling reputation amongst locals. Visitors report sudden gusts of warm air swirling around its base, even on still days, and the faint crackle of burning wood echoing from deep within its hollow column. Some claim to glimpse a ghostly boy, soot-streaked and barefoot, darting between shadows. Many say he's the baker's apprentice, doomed to relive the moment that changed history forever. At the Tower of London, soldiers battled the oncoming fire with barrels of gunpowder, demolishing houses to form fire breaks that ultimately saved the fortress from destruction. But the tower did not escape the fire's haunting legacy. In later years, guards and visitors alike reported seeing spectral flames flickering along its stone walls. Apparitions of soot-blackened figures have been seen trudging silently near the moat, disappearing through walls. The tower, already steeped in ghosts, absorbed the fire spirit into its long, haunted past. In Pudding Lane, where the catastrophe began, residents through the centuries have reported strange and sorrowful occurrences. Some speak of hearing faint cries at night, the sound of children calling for their mothers, or the smell of smoke drifting through the air where none exists. A woman in 17th century dress is often seen clutching a bundle, vanishing into the shadows. Folklore remembers her as a grieving mother, forever searching for children lost in the blaze. Samuel Pepys later described walking through the city's ruins, finding streets eerily silent and lifeless, broken only by the creak of smouldering beams and the soft fall of ash. He wrote of the terrible stillness, neighbourhoods reduced to blackened husks, the echo of footsteps on empty cobbles, where once there was laughter and life. Survivors described these ruins as ghostly places, where they felt watched or heard whispers among the ashes. Grief and trauma blurred into history, as memory itself became supernatural. Modern excavations across London still unearth the fire's remains: charred timbers, melted pottery, scorched brickwork, fragments of that terrible week buried beneath centuries of progress. Construction workers report uncanny sensations in these places: sudden waves of heat, dizziness, or faint murmurs that seem to rise from the soil itself. Whether tricks of the mind or something deeper, these moments remind us that the fire spirit still lingers beneath the city's surface, embedded in the very earth of London. Writers later spoke of the Great Fire as a haunting presence, a phantom blaze that reappeared in dreams, memories, and stories long after the flames had died. They wrote of travellers who saw the skyline glowing faintly red at night, as if the city burned again, a trick of the fog, or perhaps a ghost of flame. In this way, the fire became a ghost itself, a living memory, eternal and spectral, flickering within London's heart as both history and haunting intertwined. Many churchyards destroyed in the fire were rebuilt, yet some remained abandoned, their ruins left as silent memorials to the dead. Locals claim to hear phantom congregations singing where only crumbled stones stood, or bells tolling faintly in the night from towers long fallen to ash. At St Bride's and St Dunstan's, glowing embers were said to burn for months. Parishioners swore they saw ghostly figures kneeling among the ruins, unwilling to leave their sacred ground. The Great Fire left an indelible mark on London's mind. For decades after, survivors described a deep fear whenever they saw even the smallest flicker of flame. At the first whiff of smoke, panic swept through households. Some swore they could see the sky glowing red again, convinced the fire had returned to finish what it began. Dreams were plagued with visions of burning streets, collapsing roofs, and screams carried on the wind. For many Londoners, the haunting continued long after the ashes cooled. The monument, built near Pudding Lane, bore an inscription blaming Catholics for the fire, fueling centuries of bitterness and suspicion across the city. Locals said the souls of those wrongly accused lingered there, crying for justice. On cold nights, people felt chills near the column's base, though the air was still. Visitors reported fleeting shadows moving within the monument's spiral stairwell, or the faint murmur of voices. History's injustice seemed to have imprinted itself upon the very stone. Over time, the Great Fire became more than a tragedy. It became folklore. Guides led curious listeners through smoke-darkened alleyways, retelling tales of ghosts and divine retribution. Stories spread of phantom figures drifting through misty streets, or the smell of burning bread lingering near Pudding Lane long after the ovens went cold. Even today, these legends endure. Londoners still speak of the fire as something living, a restless presence reminding the city of its suffering, its cleansing, and its survival. Beyond the supernatural, the Great Fire reshaped London's very landscape. Narrow wooden alleys and plague-ridden slums were gone, replaced by wider streets and sturdier stone houses. Though few understood the science, many sensed the fire had cleansed the city, burning away the filth that bred disease. The plague, once unstoppable, never returned at such scale. Thus, to Londoners, the fire's destruction felt purposeful, both a punishment and a cure, a catastrophe that somehow, through terror, gave birth to health and renewal. The Great Plague and the Great Fire became inseparable in memory. Two disasters bound by horror and rebirth, death by disease followed by death by flame. Yet from that double tragedy rose a new London. Sir Christopher Wren's grand designs replaced the medieval maze with grace and symmetry, stone triumphing where timber had failed. Still, beneath that new splendour, the ghosts of both plague and fire lingered. Twin spirits haunting the capital, forever entwined beneath its cobbles and in its soul. Today, little remains of the original Pudding Lane. Only a small plaque marks the site where London's fate was sealed by one fateful spark. Yet visitors often describe a strange unease, an air too warm, a faint scent of smoke, or the sound of distant crackling wood drifting through the narrow lane. Historians call it imagination, but for believers in the supernatural, the fire never truly died. It smoulders still, not in brick or ash, but in memory and spirit. The Great Fire's legacy is as much spiritual as it is architectural. Every sermon, diary and pamphlet of the age spoke of divine purpose and ghostly consequence. Many saw the flames as both wrath and mercy, God's punishment and gift entwined. Churches rebuilt upon charred ground became monuments to endurance and rebirth. Today, ghost hunters and historians alike trace its echoes through London's ancient streets, where plague pits, ruins, and haunted vaults overlap, reminders that history never truly rests. The fire gave rise to countless legends, phantom bells ringing through ruins, ghostly shapes moving in the glow of the moon, and unseen voices calling through the smoke. Many believed the city's spirits had been released by fire, wandering through rebuilt streets seeking their lost homes, their lost families, their lost London. In this sense, the Great Fire became more than a memory. It became a haunting, a story that refuses to fade, forever woven into the soul of the city. Each year on the fire's anniversary, ghost seekers gather across London. Some report faint glows in the night sky or the echo of distant cries carried on the wind. Psychologists say it's imagination, that memory shapes perception, and haunting is merely history remembered too vividly. But for those who feel it, it's something far older. Perhaps that's the fire's truest legacy, not ash or stone, but experience. A living memory that burns quietly within London's heart, forever flickering between fact and folklore. The Great Fire of London was not merely destruction, it was transformation. From despair rose renewal, and from death a kind of spiritual awakening took hold. St. Paul's to the Tower, Pudding Lane to the Monument, every corner bears the weight of ghosts, of loss, and of the city's eternal resilience. The fire's haunting glow lives on, not in the sky, but in the stories we tell. London's spirit, once tested by flame, still burns bright through history's haze. When we gaze upon Wren's magnificent St. Paul's today, it stands not only as triumph, but as a tombstone for what was lost, a monument to both ruin and rebirth. Beneath its brilliance lies tragedy. Countless lives displaced, dreams turned to cinders, and whispers of the dead said to echo through its crypts at night. The fire is long over, yet its ghosts remain. Every flicker of candlelight, every shifting shadow, reminds Londoners that the city was rebuilt upon sorrow and flame. Few disasters have ever intertwined so strangely with salvation. The plague brought despair, the fire brought destruction, yet together they delivered London's rebirth. The people saw divine proof in their suffering. The city cleansed by fire, spared from further pestilence, and renewed by grace. Thus the ghosts of plague and fire are bound forever. Spirits of sickness and flame haunting London side by side, reminders that rebirth always walks with ruin. Modern London conceals much of its haunted past beneath glass towers and busy roads. Yet the old city still breathes beneath, whispering through cracks and forgotten cellars. Beneath Charterhouse Square and Aldgate lie plague pits and fire ruins, silent and unseen. Ghost walks trace their paths, keeping old horrors alive through flickering lantern light. Here, plague and fire are not just history, they are presence. Two catastrophes, 1 year apart, forever bound beneath the same haunted streets of London. The Great Fire destroyed, yet it also delivered. It terrified, yet it cleansed. From its flames rose tales of ghosts, angels, omens and demons, stories that endure to this day. For Londoners, it was more than mere fire, it was transformation, a spiritual reckoning that shaped not only the city's skyline, but its soul. In every glowing ember and every whispered legend, the Great Fire lives on, haunting, healing, and reshaping the memory of those who survived it. And so ends the tale of the Great Fire of London. Not simply a story of devastation, but a supernatural turning point that reshaped both the city and its restless soul. The flames may have faded, yet beneath London's shining streets, something still stirs. Beneath the stone and soot lie the remnants of the plague, and the spirits it left behind. For while the fire cleansed the city above, it could not silence the dead below. Their whispers still linger in the shadows of the ghosts of the plague pits.